The story begins in a small convenience store on a quiet night. A young couple, Jody and Kevin, walk in pretending to browse. Their exchange is brief before they draw a gun on the cashier and demand money from the register. The man complies, and Kevin grabs the cash before running out to the car. Jody, however, notices a safe near the counter and orders the cashier to open it. The cashier hesitates and warns her that she will not like what's inside. Ignoring his words, she begins to count down. Before she finishes, a gunshot rings out and the screen fades. Elsewhere, in a dense forest surrounded by silence, a woman named Samantha wanders through the trees. Her clothes are torn and she looks disoriented. In the distance, she spots a small cabin and moves toward it, hoping to find help. Inside, the place appears abandoned. Only an old radio, a wooden chair, and a few supplies remain. When she reaches for a bag of food on the table, a man carrying an axe appears outside. Alarmed, Samantha hides under the bed. The man enters, takes the bag, and leaves without noticing. Once he is gone, she quietly slips out of hiding and runs from the cabin, but she soon collides with the same man and falls. The man, named Tom, offers to help her up. He leads her back to the cabin and treats a wound on her leg. Samantha apologizes for trying to take his food and explains that her car broke down. Her husband left to find fuel but never returned. Tom listens and says his own car crashed nearby, leaving him stranded for 3 days. The only device he has is an old radio that no longer works. Night approaches, and Tom warns her that the temperature will drop below freezing. They decide to stay in the cabin until morning. Later, they walk to Samantha's car and find it completely out of fuel. She leaves a note on the windshield in case her husband returns and follows Tom back through the woods. Along the way, she becomes sick and vomits by the path. Tom gives her water from a nearby stream, but admits that when he went back later, the stream was gone. As they rest, Samantha reveals she is pregnant, which explains her condition. Tom offers her the bed while he sleeps on the floor. Before long, Samantha falls into a troubled sleep and dreams of being in pain, calling for help in darkness. By morning, Tom is gone. Stepping outside, Samantha finds a blonde woman unconscious near the cabin. She drags her inside and waits for her to wake. The woman soon stirs. It is Jody, the same person from the opening robbery. Confused and defensive, Jody demands to know where Kevin is, but Samantha doesn't recognize the name. Frustrated, Jody storms out. Moments later, gunshots echo from somewhere in the forest. Tom, who has been collecting gasoline from his wrecked car, hears the shots and drops the container. When Jody returns to the cabin, she appears agitated and demands a phone. Samantha tells her there is none. Jody assumes Samantha lives there, but Samantha clarifies that she, too, is stranded. Tom returns shortly afterward and is surprised to find someone new. Jody introduces herself and explains she had a fight with her boyfriend, who left her on the road. Tom lets her stay, but tells her she must help out once morning comes. That night, all three remain inside the small cabin as the wind howls outside. Jody dreams of being restrained and injected with something she can't see. When morning arrives, they share a quiet meal and begin to talk. Their small talk turns tense when they realize they disagree about where they are. Jody insists they are in Wisconsin, while Samantha believes they are in New Hampshire. Tom leaves to explore the forest, marking trees to avoid losing direction. After walking for what feels like miles, he finds himself standing right back at the cabin. Shocked, he returns inside to tell the others. They argue again, each insisting on a different location. Tom finally claims they might be in South Dakota. The conflicting memories unsettle them all. As the day passes, Tom warns that their supplies are low and suggests leaving together the next morning. The others agree reluctantly. At dawn, the three set out through the woods, carrying what they can. Along the way, Jody tells Samantha she never knew her mother, who died giving birth to her. She was raised by her grandparents. Later, Jody trips and drops a bundle of cash from her pocket. Tom notices and demands to know where it came from. Jody avoids the question. Nearby, Samantha discovers a hidden trapdoor in the ground. They open it and find a bomb shelter filled with supplies, food, maps, and bottles of wine. Samantha inspects a label and realizes everything is written in German. She suspects they are not in America at all. Inside the underground shelter, the three examine their surroundings. Shelves are lined with old supplies, and a map covers one of the walls. Everything they find appears to date from decades early. Samantha reads the labels and confirms they are written in German, suggesting that they might be somewhere in Europe, possibly Poland. Tom and Jody dismiss the idea, convinced that she's mistaken. But the uncertainty leaves them all uneasy. They gather what food they can and climb back to the surface. When they try to find a way out of the forest, they follow the same direction for hours, but eventually, the trees open again to reveal the same cabin. No matter which way they travel, they always end up where they began. The endless repetition begins to unsettle them, though none can explain it. That night, Tom speaks quietly near the fire. He admits that he has no family and that nobody would notice if he disappeared. Samantha listens, but says little. Later, after he leaves the room, Samantha asks Jody about the cash she carries. Jody hesitates before revealing that she and her boyfriend used to rob gas stations to survive. Samantha looks at one of the bills and notices a date printed on it, 1984. She frowns and says that the year has not happened yet. When Jody asks what she means, Samantha replies that it is 1962. The statement stuns Jody. She points to her jacket and insists that it is 1984. As they argue, Tom walks back in. They ask him what year it is. Without hesitation, he answers 2011. The cabin falls silent as they realize they each come from different times. Before they can discuss it further, a gunshot cracks through the night. Tom looks outside and sees a man with a rifle standing among the trees. Hoping for help, he steps out with his hands raised, but the stranger points his weapon toward him. The man wears an old military uniform and speaks in German. Tom drops his axe and tries to show that he is not a threat, but the soldier strikes him across the face and drags him away. Inside, Samantha translates the man's words for Jody as best she can. The soldier, whose name is Hans, ties them to chairs and demands to know who they are. Samantha tells him they're lost travelers, but he accuses them of lying. When Jody speaks, he becomes more agitated, shouting questions neither woman can understand. A short time later, Hans returns with Tom, forcing him into the cab. The group realizes the man is not from their time at all. His weapon, uniform, and dialect all belong to the era of World War II. He accuses them of being spies and threatens to shoot them if they don't explain themselves. As he moves closer, his attention is drawn to a necklace around Jody's neck, a small silver locket. He demands to know where she got it. Samantha translates again, saying that the locket belonged to Jody's mother. The soldier refuses to believe it. To calm him, Samantha removes her own necklace and reveals an identical locket. The sight stops him. Slowly, Hans reaches into his pocket and produces another matching locket. Inside is a photograph of a woman. Samantha recognizes her instantly. It is her mother. Hans lowers his weapon, confused. The realization begins to spread among them, though none can make sense of it. After the tense confrontation, Hans orders everyone outside. He forces the group into the clearing where Tom had been tied earlier. While distracted, Tom manages to loosen the ropes around his wrists and breaks free. He quickly strikes Hans, knocking him unconscious. The three of them drag the soldier back inside the cabin and tie him to a chair. For the first time, they have a moment to think. Samantha begins piecing together what she knows. The woman in Hans's photograph is her mother, which means Hans must be her father. That would also explain why she can speak German fluently and why the supplies in the bunker were written in that language. Jody listens in disbelief. When Samantha mentions her father's name, Hans Newman, Jody says that her grandmother once mentioned the same name. The details begin to align, revealing an impossible connection between them. Samantha then asks Jody for her date of birth. Jody says it is November 11th, 1962, the same date Samantha's unborn child is due. When Samantha asks for her father's name, Jody answers Adam Cohen. Samantha recognizes it immediately as her husband's name. The truth becomes undeniable. Samantha is Jody's mother. The realization leaves both women silent. Samantha turns away, understanding that her husband must have died in the war and that she herself never survived childbirth. Outside, the forest is still and quiet. Inside, Tom finally speaks. He looks at Jody and says that she is not just Samantha's daughter, she is also his mother. Jody immediately rejects the idea, insisting that she has no children. Tom continues, explaining that in his time, his mother was a criminal who robbed stores and killed a man named Kevin before being executed. He says that man was his father. Jody's expression changes as she remembers the robbery at the convenience store and realizes that the man Tom describes as Kevin, her boyfriend. She understands that she is destined to become the woman Tom is talking about. Overwhelmed, she leaves the cabin. Samantha follows her into the woods. There, Samantha learns that Jody's father, Adam, died in Vietnam and that she was raised by his parents who were abusive. Jody shows the scars on her arms as proof. The two women finally accept who they are to each other. Samantha embraces her daughter and promises that they will find a way to change what happens. Later, Samantha returns to the cabin and tells Tom that Hans must be released. Tom objects, warning that the man could be dangerous. Samantha insists that Hans is her father and that he must survive whatever happens next. Reluctantly, Tom helps her untie him. The moment Hans is freed, he grabs his weapon and runs out of the cab. Tom and Samantha chase after him, but he disappears into the forest. When they return, they share what they have each experienced in their dreams. Samantha describes her nightmare of being alone during childbirth and dying before her baby could be born. Jody reveals a recurring dream in which she faces execution. Tom adds that his dream shows him shooting a priest who had abused him before turning the gun on himself. They begin to realize that each dream depicts their own death in their respective timelines. The connection between them grows clearer. Tom concludes that if they can prevent Hans from dying, the entire chain of events might change. Samantha recalls that her father died during an airstrike near a town in Poland. When Tom checks the map from the bunker, he discovers that they are standing in that very region on the exact date of the attack. Everything aligns. If Hans survives, Samantha's mother will not remarry. Samantha will live, Jody will be raised properly, and Tom's existence will change. Together, they decide their only chance is to save Hans before the airstrike reaches the area. After forming their plan, the three head to the bomb shelter to prepare. They collect food, the map, and the old radio, hoping to contact Hans before it's too late. When they return to the cabin, they discover that he has already repaired the radio and is speaking through it, trying to reach his unit. Samantha desperately attempts to warn him about the coming airstrike, but he refuses to listen. Bound by his duty, he insists that his mission must continue. Without warning, he grabs his rifle and storms outside. Tom runs after him, determined to stop him before the attack begins. The two men clash in the forest, each trying to overpower the other. The struggle grows violent as Jody arrives, trying to intervene. During the chaos, a shot is fired and Jody collapses wounded. Hans flees, leaving Tom and Samantha behind with her. Tom realizes that if Jody dies, he will cease to exist. He pleads with her to stay awake while Samantha does everything she can to stop the bleeding. Jody's pulse weakens. Moments later, her eyes close and her breathing stops. Tom stares at her, horrified, as his own body begins to fade. Within seconds, he vanishes completely, erased from existence. Samantha is left alone beside her daughter's body. Hans returns, weapon in hand, and she turns on him in anger, blaming him for everything that has happened. The sky above begins to roar with the sound of aircraft. The airstrike has begun. Realizing time is running out, Samantha begs her father to trust her. She explains that saving his own life is the only way to save the future of their family. Hans hesitates, then finally nods. They run through the trees toward the shelter as the first explosions light up the horizon. A blast throws Samantha to the ground, striking her head against a rock. Hans lifts her and carries her into the shelter just as another explosion tears through the cabin behind. Inside, the ground shakes violently. Hans lays Samantha on the floor and watches as her form flickers in and out of existence. Moments later, she disappears entirely, leaving him alone. Outside, the ruins of the cabin burn amid falling debris. In front of the wreckage, Jody's lifeless body fades the same way, erased as history rewrites itself. Hans looks down at the photograph inside his locket, staring at the face of his wife one last time before another explosion hits. The screen fades to white as the airstrike engulfs the area. Time reverses. The events rewind. In reverse motion, the forest restores itself. The air clears and the timeline resets. It is now 1985. Inside a grocery store, Jody stands at the counter dressed in clean, modern clothes. She looks calm and composed, a completely different person from the woman who once carried a gun. She pays for her groceries and steps outside. Across the street, she notices her old boyfriend, Kevin, entering the same store with another woman. Moments later, they pull out a gun and demand money from the cashier, repeating the robbery that opened the film. The sound of a gunshot echoes as the scene mirrors its beginning. The story shifts to Jody's new life. She now lives in a quiet suburban home, surrounded by comfort and stability. On a nearby table lies a newspaper announcing the death of philanthropist Hans Newman. Jody soon meets her mother, an older Samantha who has survived and grown old. Together, they walk along a lakeshore and scatter Hans's ashes into the water. In this timeline, The past has changed. Samantha survived childbirth. Jody grew up safe, and the crimes that once defined their lives never occurred. Tom, however, no longer exists, erased by the very changes that restored peace to their family. The movie closes with the two women standing side by side on the shore, watching the ashes drift away as the wind moves across the water. Their world is quiet again.